Alright, quick video post-tune on the settings that I changed. So you can see the tune I got here, angle P 29, 26, 36, so those are all high values, which means the tune was pretty successful. So the setting that I changed was these ones, so these P and I. So these are actually, if we look at XLZ, so PSC XLZI, PSC XLZP. So these are P is supposed to be the same as your hover thrust. I is supposed to be W hover thrust, which for me would be 0.05 and 0.1. So I've doubled those to 0.1 and 0.2. When I doubled them again, I got a little bit of jiggle when it was going up and down. So I think perhaps that was too much. But these values, 0.2 and 0.1, seem okay. They're still pretty low values, but yeah, I set those correctly. And then auto-tune, I set, to start off, I set the axes, auto-tune axes to 3 and the aggressiveness factor to 0.075. I also changed min-D to 0.0003. The default is 0.001, but on these smaller copters sometimes you have to go a bit higher. And then if you remember, I had frame resonance that I could hear once I tuned one axis. And let's see, if we just take a look at the log that I was looking at there. So this is here. So this is that I've downloaded the log and I've loaded into Pete's filter tool. And if this is, if you remember, Tools, Web Tools, Filter Review. So I opened the log, got batch logging on, and here is the FFT. And the frame resonance is this one here, this thing at about 297 Hertz. So you can see I've got a fixed notch at 273, but that's missing the resonance quite substantially. And then I had the other issue where the notch type was wrong. So what I want is a notch at around, I think I went for 293 in the end, 293, and then I set the bandwidth to a fifth of that. So still a pretty narrow notch, but a bit wider than I was using. But you can see this is quite a tall notch that isn't getting, quite a tall noise peak that isn't getting attenuating. And interestingly, you know, my roll off, my gyro filters is way down here, 180, but this is still, even at 297, this is causing significant issues for the tune. These ones get attenuated properly because these are the motor noise. So if we go back to the settings, and I'll just show you what I changed. So H notch 2, obviously this is different for every copter, but I set the frequency to 293, the bandwidth to 58, which is a fifth of 293, and then I made sure mode was 0. Somehow I got set to 1, need to investigate why that happened, but 0 is the correct one for a fixed notch. And ops again to 16 to give me the triple notch. So with those in play, I then was able to tune well, and this is a decent tune, high acceleration bias, high angle P, and if we look, probably just have a look at well, I'll find a log in a little bit. But the next thing I did was flew around in a circle, and the reason for doing that was to get a good Magfit. So we go back to Amilcar's blog post here. So we're kind of done IMU, logging, propellers, thrust, notches. Okay, Magfit. So I've done Magfit, and what I've used is Pete's Magfit tool here. So I got Pete's Magfit tool here. I've loaded up my Magfit log, which is I think this one. So So this, and then I'm going to click all of these because I want basically Magfit plus motor compensation. And this shows me before and after, and really the only important thing are the parameters at the end. So this shows the parameters that you need to get the correct ones. So I can save those, save them to location on disk, and then bring up full parameter list. You can say compare parameters, always a safe way to do it. Bring up those Magfit parameters, and this you can continue. You see I've got these all the same, so I've already done this, but these are the Magfit calculated values for the compass, which should be a lot more accurate than my very approximate thing that I did before. You know, the GPS was running well, it was outside, it was away from iron, so this should be a much better compass check. So yeah, so that's all good. And then the final thing I did was I wound up angle max. So angle max, the default is 30 degrees, and I wound that up to 75 degrees. So that's pretty good. So I'm getting close to actually being able to fly this properly, FPV, but there's a few other settings that I would always change, and probably the easiest way to do this is compare with my existing Marmot. Let's see what we've got here. There we go, Marmot 5, 4.4 is probably good enough. Don't have a Matec on there anymore. I've got another tune on there. Let's find something a bit later. This one then, 9th. Okay, might be missing a few things here, but so if I untick all of these, and then I'll just load up the ones that I think are important for ACRO flying. So first off, you definitely want ACRO option set to 1. So this enables air mode in ACRO, so which gives you stabilization even at 0 throttle, so you definitely want that. I then find I want more expo in roll and pitch. 0.6 is a good value for me, and faster full rate. So this is default is 360 degrees per second, so that's a revolution per second. So I've done this up to 600, so that gives me 2 revolutions per second. You probably could go faster. Then this one, RP rate time constant. So the default is no time constant at all, which means the pilot inputs get translated directly into the copter control, and it can lead to a very twitchy feel. And so just a little bit of time constant here allows just a little bit smoother stick movements, so I do want that. I want ACRO trainer off. I'm confident flying ACRO trainer. So ACRO trainer, this is the most common reason people can't do flips and rolls in ACRO, is because this stops you doing flips and rolls, basically stops you going past 45 degrees. So I want ACRO trainer off. And then I want good yaw expo and rate for as well, and similarly the time constant. I've got a higher value for angle max here. I'll probably just ignore that for now. Ignore all of the tuning values. So then the next one is this value of throttle mix man. So I tend to set this high, and this is how attitude is prioritized over altitude. So I tend to have this high so you get good attitude control. Obviously you have to be careful here. I did a video about this, but if you set this too high and you have noise, you can get a flyaway, so be careful about that. But it seems to be good. Can ignore all the battery settings, ignore all the compass settings, ignore all these. I'm not going to enable the FFT for now. These are sort of custom things that I don't need right now. Ignore all the notch settings, ignore decal, ignore logs, ignore spin, arm, thrust, etc. I am going to pick up buzzer types to, well, I'll leave that for now. So OSD, so with MSP DisplayPort I get regular OSD behavior, so I think I could probably pick up these values. I'm going to leave these as the default, but I am going to enable these two screens which give me parameter modification. And then I want high expo and yaw for pilot rates, so things like loiter. And then actually you can see my P values are not for this copter, not far off what I've got for the other one, for the vertical acceleration. I think having a bit of de-filtering is probably a good idea here. And then these I'll probably leave for now. These are related to auto emissions. Now, relays we talked about, relay options we talked about. I am now going to switch RC8 to be return to launch because I think that's safe to do that now. And I want the dead zones for roll and pitch to be smaller so I get better control. I'll leave throttle the same and yaw the same. So change those, RC2 dead zone, RC4 dead zone. I do want the RSSI type to be 3, so that means take RSSI from the radio receiver. I do tend to want RTLL to be a bit higher in case I'm flying past trees, so 20 meters instead of 15 meters. Ignore all the serial options, boot count. Now this is a good one, RPM min, so I am using ESC telemetry, so I like having that RPM min so that I get, it won't let me take off unless all the motors are running, so this is a nice thing to use if you've got ESC telemetry. And then I do like the slew time for takeoff to be a bit shorter so that it can take off quickly. And then these all relate to fast RTL, so I think I'll probably just leave those for now. So those are the ones I'm going to keep. So just a little reminder, we've got ACRO options, we've got roll and pitch and yaw expo and rate, we've got the time constant for roll and pitch and yaw, and then we've switched off ACRO trainer. Got mixed man set high. Even a value of 1 would be fine here, certainly much better than the default of 0.1. Compass values, I don't know why it's loaded. Oh, this is compass values that are already the same from previous, so just ignore those for now. I don't think they've changed. So many parameters. Down here, so I'm enabling these two OSD screens. I'm enabling good yaw expo and rate in pilot controlled modes, so this would be loiter, alt hold. Adding a filter, defilter to vertical acceleration, and then lowering the dead zone for roll and pitch, and then enabling RTL on RC8. So I think, where are we? Oh yeah, RSSI type to 3, so I get RSSI from the radio receiver. Higher RTL height, and then take off RPM min, because I've got ESC telemetry. This is a nice way of making sure all the motors are running, and then make the motors spool up a bit more quickly than they do by default. So I'm going to write those out. done. All right, and I think at that point I'm ready to fly ACRO and evaluate the tune. So we can just switch briefly back to Amilcar's blog, see where we are on this. So what have we forgotten? Oops. Okay, so Magfit we did. I kind of didn't look at the aircraft tune. Auto-tune I did. I showed you the values for those. Roll, pitch, yaw. I did yaw detune, and that went well. Roll, pitch, yaw was good. Retuned roll and pitch, good. So he's got high stabilized roll and pitch, high yaw as well. And he's looking mathematically at the response. I will just have a quick look at that, at the main thing we're gonna look at. So let me just find a log for that. All right, I found a log here where I was in stabilize and just pushing a little bit harder. So if I look at throttle out, you can see I only got to 40% throttle. I thought I got to 60% plus throttle, but clearly not. I only got to 40% throttle, so very, very overpowered copter, but that's okay. So first thing to do is look at desired roll and roll, and you can see here that they are very, very, very close. So if we look here, for instance, there's maybe 1.5 degrees error. Similarly here, very low error rate. There's this little bump here, which I suspect defeed forward will help with. That's where it typically helps, but generally desired roll and roll tracking very closely, and pitch the same. A little bit more of an error here on pitch. That's 10 degrees error, which is interesting. Don't know why that would be. So much better here. And these ones much lower error, just a couple of degrees error. But for the most part, tracking very well. And then on your, okay, so this is interesting. So there is oscillation on your here, 3-4 degrees. So I reckon yaw is overtuned. So you want yaw to track a bit better than that. So yeah, so we'll have a look at, so probably what the thing to do there is perhaps turn down the aggressiveness setting on yaw, because that may be kicking off roll and pitch a little bit as well. So, so if I look at the rate outputs, so we've got R out here. Whoops. Here we go, R out. And R out, so this is a little bit noisy. It's not too bad, but pitch is the same. Yaw is okay, so it's interesting. So yaw isn't showing a lot of oscillation, but pitch and roll, so you want these to be below 0.1. Obviously I'm pushing it quite hard, so it's generally below 0.1 except at very aggressive maneuvers. And probably looking at this in a hover would be a better thing to do, but it's still relatively noisy, and I wonder if that's something to do with your kicking things off. So it's a decent enough tune, but it certainly could be better. And certainly if I look, let's have a look at pitch. So pitch P, D is okay. That's on roll, sorry. Roll P, roll D. So D is a little bit active there. Again, defeed forward might help. And then your P and D, that's more what you want. D, P doing most of the heavy lifting, D correcting. So yeah, it's interesting that pitch and roll. D seems to be a little bit too active, which is typically a feature of being perhaps overtuned. So I might turn the aggressiveness setting down, or perhaps a little bit too much noise. I might have to look at the noise profile again. So it's not a bad tune, but could be a little bit better. Certainly good enough to start trying in ACRO. So yeah, where are we with Amel cars? So we've done the tune. We're not going to do wind speed estimation. Not going to do barrier compensation. Not that useful. And don't have precision land. Not going to do guided. And we're back to conclusion. So I would say work my way through most of that in a relatively short period of time. So really pleased with the outcome. Really pleased with the setup. And really the next thing to do is just get into more advanced tuning and try it in ACRO, see how it flies, see how fast it flies. That's the main thing. All right, thanks for watching.